Bill Gould, welcome to Boomerang Serbian Radio here in Melbourne. I'm not going to bother you much with your previous lives. We're going to talk about presents and the life that you live today. I got in touch with a few friends of mine who actually connected me with you. And the whole idea about this interview is to talk about your product that you're trying to distribute here in Australia. And we'll also talk a little bit about yourself, your music, and things that you've done, last 50 years. Fate No More, big thing in the 90s. We grew up with your music. You toured a lot back in ex-Yugoslavia, Serbia as well. So we can start a little bit about that time. How big of a band was the Fate No More in 90s?
Well, we had an album that was platinum in 1989, 1990, the real thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Angel Dust came right after that. So to put it in perspective, 1989, I believe, is when the wall fell in Berlin, right? When the DDR ended, and we played in Berlin that night. We were in Berlin doing a gig, so we were literally at a very high point of our band's career, right when Eastern Europe was changing over.
Would you say that you were a top 5 bands in the world back then?
Back then, yeah, it could be for rock bands. Yeah, I would say that's true. Right at that time, yeah, probably.
Especially with the album King of the Day, the Fool of a Lifetime. That was something
that came a little later, but that did very well. But the real peak that we first peaked was like 1989, 1990. And so what happened was all these places that you couldn't do gigs on the other side of the Iron Curtain, like Slovakia and Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia at the time, opened up. And we started just doing gigs there because that was the cool place. That's where I wanted to play. That's where the adventure was.
Yes, people. Sorry.
They weren't used to having bands like us coming out there, so it was like a real thing. It was exciting.
Other bands said back then that you were the most touring band in Europe back then. No one toured as much as you did back then. I remember because
a lot.
So
yeah, and we played everywhere. We just played and played and played. We probably played too much looking back on it now, but we played a lot. And Slovenia opened up. We did a gig in Slovenia. I loved Slovenia. And on my day off, we rented bikes. Me and my bass tech, we rented motorcycles and drove into Croatia and to the mountains outside of Rijeka. And the war was going on there. And it's just the more I saw, the more I wanted to see. We played in Budapest a few times, and we played with Guns N' Roses there, and just met a ton of people. And it was just if you think about it, you're doing a gig in Budapest with Guns N' Roses and Metallica. Actually,
yes.
I think it was just Guns N' Roses, and people were coming, from
everywhere,
1,000 kilometers away,
everywhere.
right?
Yes,
so Bulgarians, buses of Bulgarians, buses of Serbs, everywhere. So we got everybody in one big place,
Yeah, I remember.
It was cool.
I remember those times. Yeah, I was a young teenager back then. I was 15, 16.
Really?
Yeah, I was 15, 16-year-old teenager, and we grew up on this sort of music, But today, the Fate No More is a music that was kind of played somewhere in my garage in a storage room, and all this reenactment of the Fate No More in a different sense now that we're going to talk today. It's something that actually brings back very good memories, not just for me, for all my friends, all the people back there. When
that's cool.
Send some messages, we're going to have a conversation today, and they said, "Woohoo, let's do it!" So
it was cool. The shows were super high charged because it was just really for us and for people. It was a new thing. It was a big deal.
Yes.
So it really, for me too, is one of my favorite periods of time, probably.
Yes. Now,
where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Serbia, probably the northern part of the Serbia. I was originally
Subotica.
The Subotica place called Kanjiža. It's a little place near Horgoš, which is a border crossing to Hungary, and 97% of the population in that town were Hungarians. So
Hmm.
I went to a primary school where only one Serbian class was in Serbian.
Really?
Everything else was in
Wow.
Hungarian. Yes, of course. Yeah, yeah. The rakia, as we mentioned at the beginning, was a big thing with Hungarians as well. You know, they call it
Oh
palinka.
yeah,
So
that's right.
they make really good spirits too. So, but tell me this: how did you get in contact with these boys from Rastrate?
I think that they reached out to me and
Aha,
wrote to
okay,
me
okay. Just
saying like, give me some prices for your rakia because I was just so the reason I'm doing rakia, really the real reason why I'm doing this crazy thing is because I was coming to the Balkans all the time. I mean, like I said, I was touring there and I started coming back with punk bands and just like I was just hanging out on my own. I just like being there. So once a year, twice a year, I would just come. I'd come to Bulgaria, Bosnia, wherever.
now,
The thing is that I would get rakia with me, right? Homemade stuff from because I'd stay at people's houses and they had some like stuff that grandfather made that was amazing, right?
yes.
And you couldn't buy it in a store, and I would bring it back to the States because it would kind of remind me of my trip, and also because I just loved it. It became my drink, and
So
for the past 25 years, I've been waiting for somebody to bring some homemade shit out to America, and nobody ever did it.
yeah.
And I finally decided to do it myself. So I think Ross Trade found out that I was doing this,
Okay.
importing this stuff, and they reached out.
When you were touring in on Balkans, how big of a rakia thing was in between the Fight No More? Did you drink that or did you drink something else?
You know what? Like we played in Budapest, and so like this couple Serbian buses came up, and they a lot of them brought rakia with them. Uh, to be honest, a lot of it was homemade stuff, and it wasn't very good.
Of
It
course.
tasted a little bit different, but it was pretty rough.
Rough, yeah.
So I liked the idea of it. I was having fun drinking it, but it was kind of like wincing and drinking something harsh. It wasn't really till I stayed in my friend's house, Slavko, in Belgrade,
Hmm.
where he had some from his grandfather, and I tasted that, and then I saw what it could actually be.
Yeah.
So yeah, Faith No More, we had some, we drank it, but I don't think that those guys ever really experienced the good stuff.
What about today? Did they try your stuff?
They don't drink so much anymore. Those guys, I'm kind of on my own there.
So
Um,
you consider yourself
they
as
like it. I mean, Puffy the drummer, he'll like it, but he's kind of like the tequila guy. He's kind of American centric in his taste. I don't know. Rocky just, I guess, became my thing.
okay? Would you consider yourself as a slow drinker? Because
As a what?
as a slow drinker, that's the
Yeah,
actually it's a new concept of drinking rakia. They call themselves slow drinkers these days. It's a mess.
I would say I probably am. It's a survival tactic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, now, I mean, Jesus Christ, I was in Serbia like last year. Zaječar has a music festival they do every year,
Hmm.
and I came out to that, and people know that I, have a rakia brand now, so everybody's bringing me their rakia to try, and it was like, you have to drink slow.
Yeah.
They're gonna kill you.
Exactly. It's true. It's a difficult drink to kind of a handle, but
Yes,
once you handle it,
yes,
it opens up
yes,
your previous
yeah.
previous things that were sitting back in the back of your brain for so many
It's
years.
true. If you follow the rules, it's very beneficial.
Yes,
But
I agree
you got to
100% there.
respect it.
I agree
Yeah.
100% there. Yes. Uh, uh, I listened to a few of your podcasts from different. I listened to the actual podcasts when you talk about the your travels through Europe from Germany all the way
Hmm.
down to
Hmm.
Montenegro, Albania,
Oh
Kosovo,
yeah.
Croatia, and all that. And it's a really good story. And I actually encourage people always to. I shared a lot of those
Cool.
links for people that I know and they like this sort of
That's
conversation
cool.
and they
Awesome.
really loved it. And I enjoyed that conversation with the Galeb that you had back I think last year or 2 years ago. I think it was the
Hmm.
last year. But I would kind of steal your time today to talk more about rakia. Uh, uh,
Sure. Absolutely.
I think we know who you are. We know your band very well. The
Yeah.
people they're going to listen to
Yeah.
this program. There's a lot of musicians here in Melbourne. Actually, we started doing a short podcast like this with the musicians from ex-Yugoslavia, and
Hmm.
it's a concept that this concept has its audience here as well. So, but rakia
Right.
is on another level. So
Right.
I would
Right.
love to talk a little bit about that. Uh, are you involved in the process of making it?
I have been. I do. I've been out for the all the aspects of the picking
Hmm.
and fermenting and bottling. But it's the farm where this is made is in Kraljevo, near Kraljevo in Shumadia.
Hmm.
So it's being made on a small mountain farm in center of Serbia. I go out there, twice a year, but I'm not like. And to be honest with you, I don't have the experience to make it the way these guys make it. I mean, this is a family that's been doing this for generations that are
Yes.
just complete purists. They're doing it completely the right way. I learn a lot. I shut up and I listen and watch, and I love it. It's an amazing experience, actually.
Now, do you when you try different rakias? I mean, I'm assuming you tried so many of them from Serbia because
Yeah.
you know the rakia has become a big thing in Serbia. And there's so many
Hmm.
very good distillers these days, and they
Hmm.
rakia made in a special ways, and there are really good stuff, and there's also really shit stuff as you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but how would you, when you try a new rakia, how do you judge it? Like, what's your first thing that
Well,
you?
there's a lot of things. I mean, really what you want to be very sensitive to is that nothing was added in the process, right? Because what you're doing is you're fermenting and you're distilling fruit. So the fruit, the nature, the soul of the fruit you want to keep because it's really nature that's the beauty of a good rakia. It's not what you add to it, but what you don't add to it.
But can you tell that something
And
has been added to it?
you can. There's a couple things you can do. For example, like so one thing about like I use we have Schlieva, so we use plums.
Yes.
Um, and when you pick plums, generally speaking, a tree you pick the plum the day that it's ripe, right? Because the day that it turns ripe, it has enough sugar where you can ferment it without having to do any additives. But the problem is that this fruit doesn't all ripen at the same time. So one tree, you got to go back to the same tree like 7 or 8 times, and people don't like to do that. What
Yes.
they like to do is they see some ripe plums on the tree and they take all the plums from the tree. And if there's not enough sugar content in the fermentation, then they add some sugar. Um, that to me is that's it's cheating, and it's also
Yep.
like it's not letting the nature do its course. Anyway, what you can do is if you have a rakia, you can pour a few drops in your palms and rub your palms together for
Hmm.
about 5 seconds and smell them. And if you smell the sugar, then you know that it's been added.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
Um,
That's yeah.
there's a so the thing about Serbia in particular, I mean the Balkans, there's great rakia everywhere. Okay, it's not like Serbians make the best rakia, but I kind of think that you can't have a real family style rakia without including Serbia and especially Chumadia, and I think it
Yes.
has to be a Shliva at the very least, right? I have to start with something that I think you gotta have.
Yes.
It's like the Elvis Presley of rakia, you know. So that's what I do.
I
So
agree.
the thing
100.
is,
Yes.
so the problem is with what happened in ex-Yugoslavia in general is that after World War II, everything was expensive, and the government wanted to get people housed and fed and wanted to do things on a big scale, keep everybody working, and
Yep.
keep products cheap, and that went all the way into the rakia, and so you couldn't buy a good rakia in a store, even though it was really cheap. You'd have to have go to a family where people made it at home where they couldn't sell it. It would be too expensive to sell because it took too much work to make.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's the stuff I liked,
Mhm.
that's the stuff I wanted to get. And so um, the good thing about it is there's some prejudices where people, they're just used to getting cheap rakia. Like even now, I get letters all the time like, "How are you charging this much for a bottle of rakia?" And I was like, "Well, because the stuff you're drinking isn't rakia."
Exactly. Yeah. That's the,
Right? It costs a lot to make. It
yes.
just does.
Yes.
If you do it the right way, there's no way you can cheat. You have to do it the hard way, and it's just that's the cost. So Serbia, is a bit of a problem. Like we're like, it's expensive, and people, there's not a lot of money out there, and I get it. Um, So I think that the country now has been waking up. I think it's kind of like similar to what happened with mezcal in Mexico and
Hmm.
in coffee, actually, where people, a younger generation is kind of like, well,
We
that's fine. This cheap stuff is fine, but
we
what
can do
is
it
it?
better.
Yes, and where does it come from? Where does this fruit come from that I'm drinking right now? Like
Yes.
how did they make it? I think the younger generation kind of cares more about that.
Yes, the younger generation is actually doing it in Serbia as we speak. I mean, the amount of the energy they have, they joining up in a little social groups when they make their own products and they present those products
Mm,
through those groups, and they show everything how they do it. There's no more
right.
secrets. This is the fruit, this is the process, this is the aging,
Absolutely.
this is what we make, and they're open. But back, let's say 20 years, 15 years ago, it's everybody who made good rakia was kind of a I make that for myself, but you can drink, you can have this one, it's still good, but it's not. We always had that saying, the
Yeah.
why the all rakia stays average. Wherever you go, it's nothing special,
Interesting.
because
Right.
yeah, because people had to sell something, but they could not sell the real
Hmm.
product because it just wasn't viable. It wasn't they could not sell
Nope.
something to make money out of it, as you explained earlier.
Exactly.
So that's why most of the rakias from Serbia are average and kind
Hmm.
of on a bad side. If you
Yes,
know
but
what
that is going to change. I think it's going to change. I think you're going to see some changes there, but it'll take a while. The important thing is get it now, right? I mean, like for the States, I got it for me. I wanted Rakia, and I decided the only way to get what I wanted was to bring it myself.
Yes.
I went to a friend who was a distributor out here, and I'm a musician. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know this business, and I just went to his house to have a beer because he works for a distributor in California,
Yep.
and I just said, "Hey, man, I got this stupid idea, and I don't know this business. Tell me why this is stupid, but I kind of want to bring this stuff called Rakia here, like a good one, because I mean, like I had a really good one that came over, and a friend of mine, I helped him book a tour in the Balkans, and he brought a homemade one back, and I met him at my house, and we dropped the bottle, and it shattered all over the floor, and it was like, it's just, I don't want these things, I don't want to think like this anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to, I just want my own Rakia. So my friend just, anyway, he convinced me and just said, you have to do this. I'll help you do it. You can use our import license, see what happens.
Yep.
So that's what I did. I mean, that's what got me started. And it worked. We sold the stuff that we had. And that was about 4 years ago. And now we're in like 10 states here. Um, and the cool thing is Americans are kind of getting it. Like
But
they
that's
think they
great.
know everything, but they don't know
Well,
everything.
there's always
And this
something
is
we don't
blowing
know.
people's minds.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, it's good to remember that there's always
Yes.
something you don't know,
Are you
right? I mean, when you know everything, you're boring.
exactly? Are you familiar with the Rakia bar in Canada?
I went. Yeah, you went to Toronto?
Yeah,
I
one in,
went.
one in Toronto. Yes, 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 yes.
Yes,
That's the
yeah, I
one.
went.
And
There was just there was nobody there. I was just me, but I hung out for I had a few drinks there.
yes,
I mean, but this is a classic. I went
right.
there like it was like 2010, and that's what I would do on my days off. Is there rakia in town? I need some rakia. I mean, this is what I've been doing for 20 years. Like, I love rakia.
Yeah.
So
Did you try to introduce your Rakia over there to have it to have?
Canada's tough.
Is
I'm
it?
trying. I,
Uh-huh.
I, I actually just proposed it to the LCBO, which is the Liquor Board of Ontario,
Hmm.
last month, and they rejected it.
What do you have in it that
So we just
they
got to
don't
keep
like?
working on it. Well, they have this little boutique system where they'll work with boutique products where they're the importer,
Uh,
but they said the thing was, well, it's more expensive than comparably priced products, and it's like, oh,
that's not a
there you
reason
go.
to deny the import of it. I mean, obviously it is, but
Well,
you can
you're
argue
dealing with
that.
government officials. They don't care.
Yes.
But no, but this is a place we got to get it into, and I'm that's very much on my radar this year. That's my goal.
Hmm. Hmm. Apart from the plum, from the Šljivovica, which
Mhm.
other one you can actually consume? Like, is there any
I
any
mean,
other fruit you
well,
like?
I like dunya. I like dunya a lot. When
Okay.
it's done really well, especially a natural dunya.
Yep.
I found out some friends of mine showed me I was drinking bad dunya for a long time, and they showed
Yeah.
me how, and then I felt like a complete idiot. Uh, but a good dunya is really, really nice.
Yes, yes,
A Kaisia could be fantastic, and you could
yes.
age it a little bit. I love this from Montenegro. This Lodza, but it's a
Ooh,
Bella Lodza.
Loza, yes, yes, yes,
Fantastic.
yes,
It's an amazing Lodza.
yes, yes.
Amazing.
That's
I like. I mean, yeah, that's. I like Villa Mocha.
mhm,
It's
mhm.
good. Um,
But
Sliva still is my. That's my
have
thing.
you ever considered setting up a small distillery in the States?
I thought about that originally because we have a lot of fruit here.
Yes.
Uh, and my friend, when I went to his house and had that beer with, I'm like, maybe I was just like setting up a distiller here and have my, bring in a distiller out here to help me. He's like, no, 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 you got to do it there, make it there. And it's like, okay, okay. And I'm glad he did because the guys, I mean, really, my guys that make my stuff, I mean, that's like my family now, the way
That's
I
great.
see it.
Is that
I'm so proud of the work that they do, and they're just doing it for all the right reasons.
is that how you got balkanized by them?
No, no, I was
No, no,
well
no.
balkanized before. I think they couldn't figure me out at first.
Okay,
They're like,
okay,
"Who is this guy?
okay.
Who's this Serbian guy who talks like an American?" But no, but
Yeah.
we're on the same page. I think I met the right guys.
So how did your balkanization begin? Like,
Uh, I mean, so it's weird. My family background on my father's side is Jewish, from an area in Hungary called Bekish,
hmm.
which is very close to where you grew up,
Yep, yep,
like
yep. I know
maybe
Beckish is. Yeah,
five,
of
10,
course.
10 kilometers away.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
Bekishaba, yeah. So they come from there. I didn't. I always thought we were from Budapest, and I never really. I always had bad time in Budapest, my father was always really sad when he'd hear that. But I always came to Serbia, and I always felt like this is kind of like someplace I kind of feel at home here, and
Uh-huh.
and I have a similar sense of humor with people, and there was just something I just clicked with, even though I couldn't really speak the language. And it kept me coming back because I just kind of felt like there was a certain part of home. I felt like kind of like I was home,
That
and it still feels that way.
that's great. That's either you're hooked or you're not. There's nothing in between. As we say in Serbia, if you can't have a little bit of rakia, you can drink it or don't. So there's nothing in
I
between.
think they do say that with generations, because in the States, and you probably see this in Australia too, when you immigrate to the new country, sometimes a lot of people try to forget about their past, and they,
Yes,
like here, they would say, you're Americans now, forget you're Italian or whatever, but we don't speak Italian here. We're speaking English. You're Americans. And
yes,
I didn't have any Hungarian association at all growing up. But I think that they're saying now, like, even real subtle things are passed down through families. Certain kind of sensibilities, humor, smells,
yes.
tastes, they get passed along. And I think that there's some little things that got through to me because that area, if Hungary, where my family comes from, it was probably Serbia, and that part of Serbia you grew up was probably Hungary at one point, and the border moved all
Yes,
the
yes, yes, of
time.
course. Yeah,
So
yeah. They moved so many
I think
times.
there's a reason. Yeah, yeah. So I think there's a reason.
Yes. You mentioned smells and tastes.
Hmm.
I always speak about these things, especially with the slow drinkers clubs that
Hmm.
they have their own opinions. I have my own opinion on it, and
Right.
I always ask them. I will ask you as well. When you try something different, something from
Hmm.
someone else's product, and it brings the certain smell that you
Hmm.
recognize, where does it take you?
Hmm.
Or like which do you are you does it take you to a place? Does it
Oh,
take you to a particular room where that smell was kind of a
and that's an interesting question. I don't know. I don't know, but I know what you're talking about.
because when I
Um,
try sorry when
yeah.
I try a
Go ahead.
product, and if that uh, first smell and taste hits me, I got taken back to my grandpa's,
Hmm.
podrum, and I can smell, animals. I can smell, sheep, cows, everything there
Right.
is
Right.
in that single smell and single taste. And I say this is a good stuff. So
So there's the guys that really evaluate rakia out there. Some guys, there's a blog called Rakia Aglavnum. Have you heard of that?
mhm, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So those guys, so they have a word for this. It's called impressions. They give you impressions. Yeah, when you talk about, the barn and going back to the farm, I get that, but I never went to that farm before.
Hmm.
But I do get grounded, and I do feel like I connect to something that's very of the earth and very, very centering. I mean, when I had that my first real Slivovica, the one that really made that click with me, I was at my friend's house in Belgrade, but I was sitting there, and it was the smell and the taste and just being in that house that it just all fit together, if that makes any
Yes,
sense.
yes, yeah. Of course, of course. My first,
It's like alchemy. I
yes,
mean, vodka doesn't do that stuff,
yeah.
like
But
gin doesn't do that. This is a different thing.
yeah, definitely, definitely. My first experience with the seriously aged stuff that actually took me back to a place that I, remember as a little
Mm,
kid was actually in a Kraljevo.
mm,
In a Kraljevo,
mm.
I was at the wedding
Mm.
of my cousin and the grandpa of the groom. You know how they build something in the podrooms. They block off, a couple of 100 liters of rakia when my grandson will get married,
Oh
and we're
yeah,
gonna
exactly.
open that up
Yeah.
in a certain time. So we had some weird shlivovica that looked almost brown because
Wow.
it was something
Yeah.
that I could not, when I tasted it, I couldn't drink it at the first, but that
Right.
that first sip, that first aroma and everything hit me so hard, and I cannot. I said, I'll have another sip and another and another and another, and it opened up the world for us. And we were all sitting,
It's magic.
it's magic.
Yeah.
And I said, what the hell is this? Like I never tasted anything like this. So we went to Groom and asked him, what is this? Where'd you get this from? Said, then he showed us the photos and actually video that he recorded his grandpa breaking that wall with the hammer, with the sledgehammer, to get to
Amazing.
get to the glass, big bottles where he actually stored that rakia. It was amazing. Like
Wow.
it was amazing. It's the whole
That's so
experience. Like
cool.
that brings the whole experience of the wedding, brings it to another level, and
Oh
we enjoyed
yeah.
it. We enjoyed it. So
It's a real experience then. Yeah.
so I'm glad
So,
you
so
I'm glad you have those experience as well, because being American and not being exposed to certain things, as we live here in
oh yeah.
Australia, we are not exposed to so many things that we kind of
Right.
no, it's everyday
Right.
life. We live different lives. We live in a different environments. Everything is a different, which is
Hmm.
okay, which is normal, But
Right.
to open up yourself to something totally different. I'm kind of surprised with your story, with everything that you doing at the moment. It's kind of a very very weird, but I'm very very happy to have someone like you to talk about this stuff, to present, especially our country where we come from, and stuff that we make there, that we drink there, that we talk about. The humor is probably was difficult for you at the beginning, because we joke in a
Yeah.
weird way. So I'm not sure how did that resonate at the beginning with you.
I mean, though the humor part always worked with me. I mean, if you look at Faith No More, like we have always had a horrible sense of humor that people never understood. I think and so it was very similar actually. The
Yeah,
humor out there is very similar to our humor.
yeah.
So it worked out pretty well. You know what, we were talking before about, that the wedding and you had that old one.
Hmm.
So when I go up to the farm sometimes and we're working, like the dad has some stuff that's, been aging for like 20, 25 years.
Yeah,
And it's like almost the color black.
yeah.
And it is amazing.
That
It
is.
is like, it's almost got some chocolate and coconut in it.
Ev-
I can't even describe what it's the most amazing stuff. It's like the greatest thing in the world.
Yes, I agree 100% with that. But let's talk about this current product of yours. Product, I would
Yeah,
call it a product because
absolutely.
it is.
Yeah.
So we have days. I haven't spoken to Milos and Ogi about. Have they
Mhm.
started distributing your?
It's been out for about a year. They've been bringing it
It
out
has
in
been okay.
small quantities, but it's been
Hmm.
there. Yeah.
All right.
Have you
Now
tried it yet?
I haven't tried it yet.
You
Uh,
have to try it.
Okay, I'm getting ready to try it. They're coming next week to the studio. We're having a
Okay,
program
good.
with them here, so I'm hoping they're going to bring it for us to try it here.
Fantastic.
It's
Fantastic.
called the rakia. Just for our listeners, the rakia is called Yebiga, which means
Yebiga.
fuck it, or I don't know how would I translate it. It means more than just fuck it.
More than that. Exactly.
It's a good word. Uh, the label is amazing. The Smertovnica. It's a death poster that people publish those posters everywhere in the small towns. When somebody dies, so the whole neighborhood has to know who died and when the funeral is. And it's amazing poster. First time I saw it, I said, this is great. This should taste great. So I'm yet to taste it, yet to try it. Uh, Tell me.
The interesting thing
Yes.
about our stuff, so we have two different Schlieve right
Hmm.
now that we have. One is called Bella, which is clear.
Yes.
It's just it's just aged. It's not really aged. It's just right out of the pot. It calms down for 6 months in a stainless steel thing. So it's kind of like the rakia, the
Hmm.
clear rakia, the distillate that comes out, before you age it in barrels. And people tend to think that's not the good stuff. It gets better when it ages, but this rakia should prove that theory wrong because
Well, if
it's all about the fruit. It's all the
yeah,
fruit.
if your clear
There's no
taste,
barrel to actually take away. Yeah,
yeah, if your clay stuff tastes
go ahead.
good, the aged stuff will taste much better. That's the whole thing
Yeah,
to get that white spirit, the clear spirit, drinkable, very smooth, very drink.
yes,
If
yes.
you can make that, everything else will be just better. Simple as that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, if you like what it does, I mean, and if you don't, really, just even clean and clear is a beautiful thing too, actually. Um, but the other one we have, Perva, is 18 months in barrel, so
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
long at all. It's still pretty young. It's got the color, it's got the wood. You're going to taste the wood, but it is very, very Serbian. I mean, Perva, it really is the taste of that rakia that really blew my mind for the first time
Yeah.
that I've been chasing for 25 years. That's the taste. Um, but still only likes 18 months. It's
Yep.
not like, some of these guys, like we were saying before, get into 20, 25 years. Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
I don't think, I think that if I did that, it would be sold and you'd have to wait another 20
Yes. I
years
I
before the
agree. Yeah.
next
No.
batch, right?
No.
That's why the families don't sell them too, because they want to keep that stuff because it goes so fast, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, but these two, I think I'm very proud of them. I think that I really hope that guys who have been missing getting real homemade rakia in Australia will say, okay, this kind of like scratches that itch now.
Well, rakia culture in Australia is massive between ex-Yugoslavian community,
Yeah,
regardless where you come from.
yeah,
We still
right,
import so many rakias from all around
right,
ex-Yugoslavia, and we drink it on a
yep,
daily basis. It's a
yep,
uh, we let's say 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when I actually came here,
hmm
we could bring, I don't know, fair few bottles from overseas in your luggage, and you could have,
hmm
everybody will bring a bottle or two or three or four, depends.
right,
Uh, Something from your village,
of
from your
course,
town, and then it's something that you kept in a cabinet for special occasions. It's a
exactly.
special stuff. I
That's
re-
it.
I'll tell you a funny story. Two friends of mine, when they used to travel back in Serbia for holidays, it's a big family, and they would, that was a long time ago, they would bring so many plastic bottles of raki in their luggage, and they would put the luggage on those trolleys, and they would put kids on the top of those trolleys. And
Oh
when they
man,
come to customs, they would bash little bit kids on the bottom, and they would start crying, screaming, and those people at the customs would say, "Come on, come through, come through, come through."
that's so great.
So that's how they used to
That's so
bring little bit extra. It
that's
was
excellent.
yeah. Uh, the uh, your label. Let's talk about a little bit of music, because I heard
Sure,
you still produce music.
I do.
Uh, you done something with the for a recently for a movie with some Serbian
That's right.
people, as far
That's
as
right.
if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, a Serbian director who actually she was born in Serbia. She lives in Norway now, so it's kind of like a Norwegian film,
Hmm.
but made by a Serbian director called
Hmm.
The Eclipse. They did the soundtrack for. Yeah,
What else do you do when it comes to producing music? Does Fate No More produces still music?
I mean we did okay. So Fate No More, I produced the last album we did, but that was in 2015.
Yep.
we recorded it ourselves. We didn't even tell anybody we were recording it. I just did it.
Mm-hmm.
I have the mics and I have the gear in our rehearsal studio, so we just decided to make a record and not tell anybody. And all of a sudden, boom, we had a record out, and people were like, we hadn't done anything in like 15 years, and people were like, what the fuck? But that's the way I like to do things. Um, so I do that. I mean, to be honest, getting into alcohol, it's a crazy learning curve. I mean, the United States is a huge country. Every state, there's 50 states. They all have their own laws. I've got to learn all these things.
Yes.
There's taxes. There's like, and then selling something is so competitive. There's so many products here. You know, I'm
They-
selling this thing nobody's ever heard of before.
yeah.
So this takes a lot of my time, actually. We still don't have it in Canada. We
Mhm.
still don't even have it in Serbia. You know, I'm going to Serbia next month. We're finally going to release it in Serbia. I get so many letters from Serbia like, where can I buy your Rakija? And I go, you can't. And they're like, what do you mean I can't buy your Rakija in Serbia?
Yeah.
You know, I said, well, you have to come to the United States and put it in your suitcase and bring it back.
Well,
And people are doing that
yeah, I
now.
know, I
People are
know, I
doing
know,
that.
I know. We
They're bringing Yebiga from America to Serbia.
that's
It's
great.
going the other direction. Yeah,
That's great. I found recently that Dubioza Collective is touring Australia.
they
Uh,
are. That's right. Next month, right?
yes. So
Yep.
I, as what I found out, you know all those boys from the Dubioza Collective. You are friends with them,
Hmm.
and how did that happen with you? Yeah.
I I was in. I mean, I went to Sarajevo a long, long time ago, and I met some friends with mutual friends with Vedran,
Uh-huh.
who's a bass player. Vedran is a side note that's kind of interesting fact. So the label, the Yebiga label, Vedran did the graphic design on that.
Okay. Okay. That's
So
good to know.
he helped me design the label. Yeah.
That's good.
So we came back. I was with a German band touring, and we played in Sarajevo at a place called the Fist Club. And I talked to them again, and they were kind of like still, you know, just a local band.
Mhm.
And I just stayed in touch. I like them. I like their energy. You know, they're smart guys, and they're kind of, you know, it's really tough. You know, when you're a band, you know, coming from Bosnia, there's a very low ceiling. It's very hard to get outside of that, you know,
Yes.
bubble. And I just I talk to them about it a lot and about, you know, how much you have to tour and you can do it, but it's just a shitload of work. And
Yes.
they did it. I mean, they did it.
Yeah, they did it.
They
Yeah. I know.
worked
I
and
know.
they work and they can play UK. And, you know, it's so hard for any band to play UK. It's so hard for a California band, you know, rock band to get into UK. I mean, it's really competitive and really tough, and they did it. So I really have a lot of respect for those guys, actually.
Oh, we love Dubi as a collective here. I mean, everywhere. I mean, they're great. You know, so many good young people are coming now after them and trying to become what they have become. And it's a great thing.
Excellent.
A great thing. They're coming out of
Absolutely.
from especially from Sarajevo. And yeah,
Yep.
there are few young boys that are doing really good, and are hoping to, you know, in 10 years time to see them as Dubioza Collective today, which is great. Maybe you
Absolutely.
can involve yourself with your label there to
Totally.
kind of promote
Yeah, whatever.
those young boys and girls from there. Uh,
I put out the Dubiosa. I put out two of their records.
oh
I was their
yes.
label to kind of help them at the time. Actually, they don't need
Uh-huh.
my help anymore,
Okay.
but at the time, you know, I was kind of like we worked together. We definitely worked hard together.
Great. Uh, what else I wanted to ask you is your tour in Australia. I heard a rumor you might be touring Australia.
Oh man.
Is there a rumor? Is there a
Well,
wrong rumor?
we had a tour set for 2020.
Uh-huh.
Pandemic hit 3 weeks before the tour started.
Hmm.
Got pushed back 1 year. Uh, then the Delta variant happened.
No.
Canceled that. Pushed it back another year. Finally, getting ready to do the third time's the charm, and the tour got canceled.
I'll have your Rakia next week here in our studio. We'll have some interesting guests who actually
Cool.
like trying Rakia. We might even bring something else to compare it with. Uh,
Absolutely. Please.
I'll send you.
Yeah, send me an email
I'll
and just
send.
tell me what you think
I'll,
personally.
yeah, I'll send you a few photos
I will not be
with
offended.
yes, of course. I hope not.
Yeah.
I'll send you a few photos with the boys from studio, and
Cool.
I hope we continue this venture and this conversation.
Totally.
If anything new happens in your life, and if anything new happens here, we can have this conversation sometimes, during the year or beginning of the next year.
Anytime, man. Totally.
I really appreciate your time, and I want to thank you very much for being part
All
of
right.
of this conversation, and all the best with your Rakia
Absolutely. Thank you,
and
man.
with your
It's a pleasure
venture.
meeting you, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you again, Bill.
Take care, man. Bye.
Talk to you. Bye bye.